The movie star walked up to the stage mid-song and said, "Can you turn it down? People are trying to network." Prince stopped playing, set down his guitar, looked at the 200 people in tuxedos, and said 7 words that made the oxygen leave the room. 4 Seasons Hotel, Beverly Hills. Saturday night, March 2012, 9:47 p.m., private premiere celebration for The Manhattan Project, a $150 million Hollywood drama about Wall Street excess in the 1980s. 200 guests filled the grand ballroom, cast and crew, studio executives, A-list celebrities, press with controlled access, entertainment for the evening, live music during dinner. The studio had hired Prince, $75,000 for a 90-minute set, background music, elegant, unobtrusive. Prince had agreed for one reason. He wanted to see if anyone would notice the soundtrack issue. He'd been watching this film's production for months through his legal team. He knew what they'd done. He came to make a point. 9:23 p.m., Prince took the stage, small setup, acoustic guitar, keyboard, single spotlight, black suit, perfectly tailored, white shirt, no tie, top button open, purple pocket square, subtle, natural afro, no sunglasses. He started playing. Jazz standards, smooth, unobtrusive, exactly what was requested. The crowd barely noticed. Conversations continued, champagne flowed. This was background music. 9:47 p.m. Prince shifted. He started playing something original, still instrumental, still quiet, but the melody was unmistakable to anyone who'd heard When Doves Cry. A deconstructed, slowed-down version. Jazz arrangement. Beautiful. Haunting. 3 people in the room recognized it immediately. Marcus, 23, production assistant. He'd worked on the film's sound editing. He knew they'd used the interpolation. Jessica Lange, the lead actress. A longtime Prince fan. Her face went white. David Sterling, the film's composer. He'd created the interpolation and had been nervous about this. Premiere all week. 9:52 p.m. Dominic Cole noticed the music. The film's lead actor. A-list. Oscar nominee. $20 million per film. Known for being difficult, he was mid-conversation with a studio executive when the melody penetrated his consciousness. He was annoyed. The music was too present now. Too interesting. People were starting to listen instead of talk. Dominic had been drinking champagne for 2 hours. He was riding high on the film's early buzz. He believed he was the most important person in this room. He made a decision. He walked toward the stage. Prince saw him coming, didn't stop playing, just watched Dominic approach. Dominic reached the edge of the small stage, leaned in. His voice was low, meant to be private, but in a quiet ballroom with good acoustics, everyone heard it. "Hey, man, can you turn it down? People are trying to network here. You're supposed to be background." Prince stopped playing, mid-phrase, just stopped. The silence was immediate and total. 200 people froze, glasses halfway to lips. Conversations dying mid-word. Prince looked at Dominic. A long, steady look. Then he looked past Dominic, at the 200 people in the room. He set his guitar down carefully, stood up, stepped to the microphone. His voice was quiet, conversational, but in the silence, every syllable was a gunshot. "I'm background music. That's what I was hired to be." A pause. "But here's something interesting." He looked directly at Dominic. "Your movie, The Manhattan Project. Scene 47, the breakdown scene. The music in that scene, the emotional core of your entire film, is my music." The room went colder. Not credited, not licensed properly, not discussed with me, just taken. Altered enough to be legal, but not enough to be unrecognizable. Jessica Lange had her hand over her mouth. David Sterling was trying to make himself invisible. Dominic, defensive. "I don't know what you're talking about." Scene 47. Your character is in his office. Markets are crashing. He's watching everything fall apart. The music that plays, that builds, that makes the audience feel his desperation, is built on a piece I wrote in 1984. Prince looked at the crowd. How many of you have seen the film? About 60 hands went up. Cast, crew, studio executives who'd seen the advanced screening. How? Many of you remember that scene? All 60 hands stayed up. How many of you cried during that scene? 45 hands stayed up. Prince nodded slowly. That's my music, making you cry, for a film that paid me nothing, for a character that stole from people the way this film stole from me. Dead silence. Dominic was red-faced. We paid for the rights. You paid for an interpolation. That's not the same as asking. That's not the same as respect. Prince picked up his guitar. I'm going to play something now, not background music, not for networking, just music. He looked at Dominic. You can leave if it's too loud. Prince sat back down, adjusted the microphone, looked at the crowd. This is the original, the one you took, the one that made your scene work. He started playing. A 7-minute version of the instrumental the film had sampled. But this wasn't background. This was full-force Prince. The acoustic guitar became a voice, crying, screaming, whispering. His left hand created a rhythm that sounded like 2 guitars at once. His right hand made melody lines that felt impossible on 6 strings. By minute 2, people were crying, not polite, hidden tears. Open weeping. Jessica Lange was sobbing. Marcus had his head in his hands. Even some of the studio executives, people who'd spent 30 years in Hollywood, people who'd seen everything, were wiping their eyes. By minute 4, Dominic Cole was sitting at his table with his head down. By minute 7, when Prince played the final note and let it fade into complete silence, the entire ballroom was destroyed. Prince stood, unplugged his guitar, looked at the crowd one more time. Music isn't background. It's not wallpaper. It's not something you take because you can afford the lawyers. He looked at Dominic. It's the thing that made your scene work. It's the thing that made them cry. And you told me to turn it down. He picked up his guitar case. I'm leaving now. You can keep networking. Walked off stage. Toward the exit, the room was paralyzed. Then Jessica Lange stood, walked after Prince. Prince, wait. He stopped. She was crying, mascara running. I didn't know. About the music, about the sampling, I swear I didn't know. I know. That scene, scene 47, that's the scene that made me sign on to this film. The music in the temp track, which I now realize was your music. That's what convinced me this film had a soul. Prince looked at her. Then the film has a soul. The people who made it don't. He turned to leave again. What can I do? Prince stopped. Thought. The young man, over there. He pointed to Marcus, the production assistant. He knew. I could see it in his face when I started playing. He knew what they did. Marcus? He's worked on this film for how long? 18 months, since pre-production. What do they pay him? I don't know. Maybe $40,000 for the whole production? Prince pulled out his phone, typed something. Showed it to Jessica. Give him my number. Tell him to call me Monday. I have a job for him. What kind of job? The kind where music gets respected. He left. 10:34 p.m. The party continued. But it was different now. Half the guests had left. The remaining people were quiet, subdued. Dominic Cole was at the bar, alone, drinking whiskey. Nobody was approaching him. Studio executives were in an emergency huddle in the corner. Jessica Lange found Marcus. Marcus, Prince wants you to call him. She handed him a card with a phone number. Marcus stared at it. Why? He said he has a job for you. I'm nobody. I'm a PA. Why would Prince? Because you knew. You knew what they did with his music, and you felt bad about it. He saw that. Monday morning, 9:17 a.m. Marcus called the number. A woman answered. Paisley Park. Prince told me to call? Marcus? Yeah. Hold, please. 30 seconds later. Marcus, it's Prince. Mr. Nelson, I don't understand why. You worked on that film for 18 months. You know how they used my music. I do. I'm sorry. I should have said something, but I was just a PA. I didn't have any power. You had a conscience. That's rarer. Silence. I need someone who understands film music, someone who knows when artists are being disrespected, someone who'll speak up even when they have no power. For what? Paisley Park is starting a film division. Soundtracks, scores, licensing. I need someone to run point on making sure artists get credited, paid, and respected. Marcus couldn't speak. Marcus? I'm here. You interested? Yes, God, yes. Good. Salary's $85,000. Plus bonuses when we place music. Start date. Next Monday. 6 months later. September 2012. Marcus was now director of music licensing at Paisley Park Films. His first week had been overwhelming. Prince had handed him a stack of contracts, deals that major studios had sent over the years, trying to use Prince's music for pennies on the dollar. Read these, Prince had said. Learn what disrespect looks like in legal language. Marcus read every one, took notes, started to see the patterns, the buried clauses, the auto interpolation rights that let studios steal without calling it stealing. He'd placed Prince's music in 4 films by September, properly licensed, properly credited, properly paid. But more importantly, he'd negotiated deals for 3 other independent artists whose music was being exploited by major studios, artists who didn't have Prince's lawyers, who didn't have Prince's power. Marcus gave them power. One was a jazz musician in New Orleans. Her music had been used in a documentary without credit. Marcus got her $50,000 and a co-composer credit. Another was a hip-hop producer in Atlanta. A car commercial had sampled his beat, buried in the paperwork. Marcus unwound the contract and got him paid. Prince never took credit for any of it, just nodded when Marcus updated him. Good. Keep going. November 2012. The Manhattan Project was released theatrically. Scene 47, the breakdown scene, had been completely rescored. The Prince interpolation was gone, replaced with generic, orchestral music. The scene no longer worked. Critics noticed, the emotional climax falls flat. The temp music in early screenings was reportedly better. Variety. Scene 47 should be devastating. Instead, it's forgettable. Hollywood Reporter. The film underperformed. 67 million domestic box office. Projected. 120 million. Dominic Cole's career continued. He was still an A-list actor, still getting offered roles, still making millions. But the story followed him everywhere. Every late-night interview, every press junket. Someone asked about it. At first he deflected, made jokes, tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, but the internet never forgot. The story had gone viral within hours of the premiere. Someone had recorded Prince's performance on their phone, posted it to YouTube, 7 million views in the first week. The comments section was brutal. Dominic told Prince to turn it down. Career suicide. Scene 47 doesn't hit the same after knowing they stole the music. Prince destroyed that whole room with one song. Legend. By 2015, Dominic had stopped trying to spin it. A podcast. The host, a music journalist, asked, "Is it true you told Prince he was too loud at your premiere?" Dominic took a long breath. 3 years later, finally honest. "Yeah, I did, and it's the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life." "What were you thinking in that moment?" "I wasn't thinking. I was drunk. I was riding high. I thought I was the most important person in that room. And then Prince showed me exactly how wrong I was." "Did you ever apologize?" "I tried. Called Paisley Park a month after the premiere. Wanted to apologize directly. They said Prince wasn't taking calls from me." "Did you try again?" Dominic paused. "No, I figured, some things you don't get to apologize for. You just live with them. Do you regret it? Every day. Not just because of what it did to my reputation, because I disrespected someone who deserved better. And I did it in front of 200 people. There's no walking that back. April 21st, 2016. Prince Rogers Nelson died at Paisley Park, 57 years old. Marcus, now 27, thriving at Paisley Park, was devastated. At Prince's memorial, he was invited to speak. He told the story of the premiere, of Scene 47, of the phone call Monday morning. Prince didn't have to give me that job. He didn't even know me. But he saw something. Not talent, not connections, just someone who felt bad about something he couldn't control. He paused. That's who Prince was. He didn't punish people for being powerless. He gave them power. He held up a framed photo. Prince on stage at the premiere, mid-performance, eyes closed, guitar in his hands. Someone took this photo that night. I keep it on my desk, because every time I'm about to make a decision about music, about artists, about money, I look at this photo and ask, what would Prince do? He paused. The answer is always the same. Respect the music, respect the artist. Everything else is just background noise. 2019, the Academy Awards. Jessica Lange won Best Actress for a different film. In her acceptance speech, I want to thank someone who isn't here tonight. In 2012, I watched Prince walk off a stage after being disrespected by people who should have known better. He didn't burn the building down. He didn't destroy anyone. He just played one song, one perfect song, and reminded everyone in that room what art actually is. She held up the Oscar. That night changed how I choose projects. I now ask, is this music respected? Are these artists credited? Because of Prince? The audience applauded. Some stood. She continued. This is for a film where every artist was paid, credited, and honored. Prince would have approved. Marcus watched the ceremony from his home in Minneapolis. When Jessica said, because of Prince, he looked at the framed photo on his wall. Prince, eyes closed, guitar in his hands. Mid-performance at a premiere that tried to treat him as background noise. Marcus smiled, picked up his phone, sent a text to Jessica. He would have been proud of you. 3 minutes later, his phone buzzed. Jessica, he would have been proud of you. You're doing what he started, protecting artists, making sure they're heard. Another text. Music isn't background. P. Marcus stared at that last line. It was something Prince used to say to him every time they discussed a deal. Every time an artist was being undervalued. Music isn't background. Marcus had it framed now. In his office at Paisley Park, right next to the photo from the premiere. 2 reminders, 2 truths. One from a night when Prince was told to turn it down. One from every day after, when Marcus made sure no artist would ever be background noise again.